Hello, everybody. One second here while I set this up. Waiting on Brady. He had to run out and get the kids some lunch, so let me mute this real quick. Gonna have Scotty go ahead and share this out to some social media so people can watch. Some tune in. We got finally got these card proofs in. We can show those off. Alright. The quarantine here has caused my house to become very crowded during the day, obviously. So I have my daughter home from school, got Brady's daughter here while he's helping me proof. My wife's working from home, keeping them busy. So if it's loud, if the dog starts barking from deliveries, or if the kids start yelling, I apologize. I'll try to keep it quiet for everybody. So, and yes, I will also be checking questions as we look over cards, just so this is going to be just casual, showing off the card proofs, so people can get a little look at how the cards are looking. These are proofs; these are not like final cut up cards yet. These are just sheets of cards. So, making sure that all the layout's right. Card backs are so far most of the card backs are good. I caught a couple issues, which is what this is for. So gonna fix those before they start doing the final run. But gonna show off pretty much anything you guys want to see. So had a couple questions already. Will the fantasy line have Ultra Quest deck? No, the fantasy miniatures line that's gonna be going live on April 14th is gonna be a whole separate product. We don't want to. You have a lot of Ultra Quest content coming your way from this Kickstarter. We don't want to throw a bunch of content out there for people who haven't got the game yet. And there's a lot to play through, so I think you'll be busy for a while until we do more Ultra Quest content in the future. But the fantasy miniature line is a separate product, and it's a different fantasy setting. It's more kind of like typical D&D fantasy. And you can probably tell that from the aesthetics of the miniatures themselves, but they're not specific to Ultra Quest universe. Looks like Brady finally showed up. You got their lunch?
What?
You got their lunch?
Yep.
Alright. Hey Keith, how's it going? Hey, hello from Germany, Nerdshire. Any news from the Street Master Spanish translations? Nothing new on that front. As stated before, that was done through volunteer work. Nothing official, but we are in the talks with some partners to do official translations for Street Masters in the future. So hopefully we'll have some big news to share in that soon.
Is this 6 feet?
I don't know. I'm about 6 feet tall, so I'll scoot over. Well, there's games in the future for the fantasy line. I will just say for now that is definitely not out of the question. We're kind of the miniature line.
Oh, a game for it?
Yeah, we'll see how the Kickstarter does to see how how well received it is. But the intent is for us to do the Blacklist Miniatures product line to coincide with games as well. So that's the plan. Is as long as it works out and Blacklist Miniatures can become its own division, that's definitely something I hope to do.
Yeah, we always talked about doing like a very, very light, like tactical role-playing system. Because like when we were younger, we used to have this affinity for, both Hero Quest, but also Warhammer Quest that had all those books and supplements to add to it, but also pretty lightweight rules to it. So that was kind of one of the initial ideas behind it.
So this was what was that Gamma. There are. This is the box proof we got that we took the Gamma. You'll see some ads on the side, and you'll see something that nobody's seen yet, but we can show it off because
It hasn't seen because
actually
this, I should.
there's a new ad right here. One of our developers, Mitch Schroeder, is designed a game for us in the Brook City setting. Can't wait to show more about this, but this is a little tease here because it's an ad on the side of the box. As you can see, it also has the new Blacklist logo and everything. So this will be the first game with the new Blacklist games look. But I'll show you the box here. This is what it's looking like so far. I think there was a change to one of the ads on the side, but everything else looked great. There's the back. we will show you Gwendol and Loxley, Sarah. Leroy says he's got this on pre-order and excited, as well as Hour of Need. I'm very excited for both as well. Will there be an MDS game in space? We'll see. We definitely have some cool ideas for a sci-fi game. I think I showed this last time, but this is the proof rulebook. This was actually an old file that the factory was using, so we sent them the updated file with fixed typos and things. So the next book I get will be the final proof. So this is just an early proof. All right, so this right here, this stack of proofs is just from the base game. As you can tell, there's lots and lots of cards in the just in the base game alone. So these are what we're doing right now is we're going through and reading these and making sure all the files are right, they're backed up properly, they have the right backs on them. But I'm going to go through and show you these decks. Obviously not every card, but we'll let you look.
Didn't show me.
Yeah, we'll do that. That's later. We're doing the base game for now.
I just like the pony.
Yes, Scotty. Public service announcement. Public service announcement. Our need pledge manager and late pledges end on April 17th. And that is just 3 days after the launch of the Fantasy Blacklist Miniatures Fantasy line, Fantasy Series 1, which launched on Kickstarter on April 14th. If you haven't followed it yet, you can go to the Kickstarter page and hit the reminder button to be reminded when that goes live. So, what will the card size be? The cards are standard LCG size, like what's the best word? Standard playing card size.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. I mean, basically, if you have Street Masters or Brook City, it's the same size as those cards. Here we have one of the heroes you're familiar with, probably because he was in the demo kit that we showed off during the Kickstarter. This right here is Cedrin Highmore. He is the kind of cleric style character. I'm going to try to line this up. I have a little lag on my YouTube here on my computer, but these are some of the cards in his deck. There's some more of them. And you'll see at the bottom here, the gold versions are upgraded versions of the cards that are used during campaign play, if you want to upgrade certain abilities of his. And these are his card backs. There's Cedrin, one of the heroes. And one of the other heroes from the demo kit is Rowan Laughlin. He is what we call in the setting a Bury folk. Is that what you call a singular version of Bury?
Yeah. Well, the Bury is the colloquial term. Bury then
There's some more of his cards. And you'll see Rowan shows up in a lot of the random art in the game, like a lot of the quest decks and things like that. He's a popular character showing up everywhere. And there's his card backs. He has some very nice art for his card back.
Sorry, I'm designing a game on the side here. Our next Kickstarter. Well, our next.
Alright, so this hero was not in the demo kit. This is the other one of the other heroes in the base game. This is Quella. She is a harpy mage type character. She's got harpy claws. You'll see one of her starting equipment items is not a weapon, it's actually her claws themselves. I think it's this card right here. Yeah, that card. She's got all kinds of spells. She's kind of similar to Cedrin. Cedrin has a bunch of prayers that he uses in his deck. She has spells. And while he's a healer and defensive character, she's very offensive. She's got no defense inherently, but she is a glass cannon, as they call it. And there's more of her cards. And these are the backs. Alright, and then we have the last hero of the base game, Myrina Duval. She is a vampire warrior, a very tough defensive character with some abilities to heal herself, feeding off her enemies. Brady, you want to answer this question?
What is it?
Lore-wise, why do harpies not have wings?
They lost them in the earlier wars. They're kind of like cursed, so they they're bound to Aritica for various mythological reasons, but essentially they were cursed and trying to redeem themselves. Essentially, so they used to be regular harpies, but yeah, because of various atrocities committed by them in the earlier days of the world, they've been cursed to be wingless. Trying to earn them back now.
So that was the heroes for the base game. Now we're going on to threat decks. So one of the threat decks that you were familiar with from the demo kit are the Frocks, one of my favorites. So you'll see that there's 4 copies of each minion, 4 copies of the traps. They also have events in the deck. Every threat deck has a reference card here that tells you how that deck uses threat tokens. In the case of the Frocks, the threat tokens represent like poison. So they will, if you take damage from them, they will poison you. And the back of their deck gives you a little hint at one of the villains in the game, Bulks, the big frog guy. He typically leads Frocks. Now, he doesn't have to in the game, but that's thematically who would be the villain if you're fighting Frocks, thematically. Those are the villain. That's the threat deck for the Frocks. The next threat deck in the from the base game are the Raglanders. Now, we haven't seen a lot of these guys except for the sculpts on the Kickstarter page, but get a little tease of their deck here. Their use of threat tokens, they represent their stench, basically. Stinky. So the Raglanders themselves will gain threat tokens, and when Raglander would activate, any hero in that room would have to do an endurance test to see if they can overcome the smell, because they're pretty stinky. You can see their trap is just a feeding trough of all kinds of nasty stuff. Don't really want to figure out what all that is. And I love their card backs. The card backs show them doing what they do best. Those are the Raglanders. We have the Thralls, the last threat deck in the base game. These are the vampires. You got gargoyles, you got crimson courtiers, and you got feral mothers. And the way they use threat tokens is it represents the blood they smell on you. So as heroes gain threat tokens, it increases the, basically the, what's the word I'm looking for? The potential of them feeding off you. So the more threat tokens you have, the more that they can...
The threat?
The threat. I don't want to use threat too much. And then there's the back of their cards. Yes, we definitely have the Bray deck. We have all the cards, actually. They sent us all everything they had, file-wise, and luckily nothing was forgotten. So we have all the cards here to show you guys. Alright, so the villain decks. First up, I'm going to show you the backs first so you can see, look at the villain themselves. This is Bulks. This is the villain that was in the demo kit. He's kind of the more straightforward villain. Just a big, sneaky dude. Now, luckily, we got these proofs. We caught something that was very important on this guy. He's supposed to have the huge trait up here because it kind of defines his playstyle. So we're gonna send the factory the updated file there because somehow that got knocked off on one of the layouts. But this is the final villain deck for Bulks. As you can tell, there's less cards in these decks because they're kind of like timers in the game. So once the villain deck is run out, then the villain will spawn. This next one is very commonly leading Raglanders. This is Gert. And this is what her cards look like.
Remind me real quick.
No.
I know we're on this, but if this is on top of your mind, would you only want to do this to get out of the deck?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's like taunting you to get rid of those because that's the way you design that quest, so you can tell me.
Oh, it's been a while.
This is Winora Morn. She is the last villain in the base game.
Somebody stepped on this.
She's really not the biggest threat in in her villain deck. It's really the thing that she's holding. That little baby is very, very dangerous.
Frederick.
All right, those are the villains in the base game. So now we're going to go over to quest decks. Now these aren't going to be as interesting to look at because there's lots of text on these cards, but I'll give you a kind of an overview of the quest while we're looking at them. So this right here is the quest from the base game. This was the cleansing. This is, or sorry, what I said. This is the quest from the demo kit. It has been changed a little bit since the demo kit, but it's the same idea. You're essentially trying to defeat the villain, but the villain can't take damage while there are altar stones in play. So you're trying to find altar stones, cleanse them at the altar, and then defeat the villain. Oops, I better close that window because Mitch is talking. Then the next quest deck we have from the base game is the Escape. This one's cool because when you set this one up, you put your stairs token in a corner room, but the heroes start in the opposite corner, and you're trying to get to the stairs tile. Most quests have you starting on the stair tile, so this one's a little different. You're trying to get out of the dungeon alive. Every hero starts with a sneaking card. See those right there? Those let you kind of exhaust minions and kind of get around easier, but there's a chance for you to lose them. There's a lot of spawning in this one, so it's pretty much just survival. Get out alive. And you'll notice these quests are kind of generic themes where it's like any story might involve you getting captured and having to escape. So that quest can be reused in all kinds of different stories in the future. Alright, next we have the Hunt. This one is about the villain that you're going after has hired some mercenaries, essentially. We call them rivals in this game, and they're just kind of like mini bosses. And in this, you're trying to track down these rivals in this dungeon and defeat them while also seeking out the altar. So you'll see these 4 rivals in the game. In the Kickstarter, we unlocked miniatures for them because in the base game they're just tokens. So you can swap those out with actual miniatures, which is cool. And this other quest deck, this is the 4th one we're looking at. This is 4. This one's the Rescue. Someone has been kidnapped, and you are going in to rescue them from villains. And in this one, there is the Prisoner ally, which you will recognize as a miniature you unlocked in the Kickstarter. So in your Stretch Goal box, you'll have a miniature for that prisoner. And swap out his token. Sorry, I'm like not centering this. There we go. It's a little better. And then the the 5th quest in the base game is called The Search. This one's probably the most straightforward one. You are trying to locate an artifact and escape with it. So imagine the villain stole something from town, and if you're hired to go track it down and bring it back. So in this one, there are these clues, and each hero is trying to find 2 copies of the same clue, and take it to the altar and identify it, and then you got your artifact. So you'll see there are 8 copies of clues in there. Going around trying to find those. That's the Search. And the last quest deck in the base game is called the Showdown, which is fitting because this one is all about finding the villain and defeating it. This is just a head-on battle. The trick to this one is that every hero will have a card out called an advantage that gives the villain some kind of advantage in game, like more health or more defense or more attack. And you're trying to get rid of that advantage card by interrogating minions in the quest and get pretty much finding the villain's weak spot so you can have a fair fight. If the villain spawns with those advantages out, you're going to have a really tough fight on your hands. You can see he's got a tactical edge, sword strength, favored weapon, or unnatural protection. Alright. Whew, my arm's getting tired. So, the next one is the altar cards. These are the altar cards from the base game. Every game you play, you'll use an altar card. In the demo kit, we use the Unstable Altar, which basically just rerolls the altar pool every turn. It's just chaotic. Every altar will mess with the altar pool in different ways. In the base game, they're very standard altars, but there's 6 different versions of them. There's the Unstable Altar. There is the Drowning Altar, the Burning Altar, the Storm Altar, the Quaking Altar, and the Solar Altar. And those all kind of coincide with different sides of the altar dice. And they all do different things, which is cool. So this kind of mixes up your game every time you play. You can pretty much sock it in whatever villain, whatever threat you want, whatever heroes you want, whatever quest deck you're using, and then you can also swap out what altar you're using. Next up, we have feature cards, one of my favorite parts of the game. Oh, the altar card backs, by the way, just so you guys know what those look like. These are the feature cards. These kind of define what you find in rooms. These are the ones you'll find in the base game, but as you know from the stretch goals, they'll unlock even more. And not only do they look cool, they also have rules about how you interact with them, and also quest decks will attach cards to them and different things as well. They're kind of like anchor points in the room, and that's what the backs look like. Any questions on this one? What's the projected release date? We're still trying to get that from the factory because obviously with the virus things have been delayed quite a bit. But we're making good progress. We're hoping to finish proofing these by the end of the week and then give them the thumbs up to start mass production. But we will definitely post an updated timeline on one of our next updates. Alright, the next deck we have are the search cards in the base game. Those are the backs of the search cards. Kind of look like treasure chests. In the base game, there are Frocks, Raglanders, and the Thralls. Yeah. And this is these are some of the things you'll find when you're searching. They're kind of usually like one-off things, like potions and stuff like that. But searching also gets you supplies, which gives you general resource you use for lots of things in the game. And then on top of the threat cards, the threat cards, we have lurker cards. So every minion in the threat deck will also have a lurker version, and the lurker version goes in the lurker deck, and these can just pop out in any quest. Anytime you have to draw a lurker card, you just pull one out of the deck, and it could be anything. Yeah, Poxoid Bladder is pretty nasty. These right here, I'm not going to show you the front of these because it's a spoiler. If you're playing the Out of Luxon story, it'll tell you when to use these cards. In the rule book it says don't look at these, just go ahead and set them aside until you're playing the deck, but this is what the backs look like. So who knows what could possibly be on these story deck cards, but these come out during the story. It'll say, oh, get this story card, and it gives you some new ability or some new effect in the game. But you'll have to play through the story to find out what those are. Next up we have equipment cards. Again, these are used in campaign play. These are ways to find new weapons, armor, trinkets, things like that. I want that flail. That flail looks cool. And there's some more here. Brady's writing a book over here. And also, I think we unlocked this as a social goal, but we added these because the Kickstarter. These are allied versions of the heroes in the game. No, the equipment cards are not character specific. It lets you replace your starting equipment. Some starting equipment you will want to keep, but you can equip up to 2 trinkets. So a lot of the trinkets that might be define a character's playstyle, they want to keep that trinket, and then they can get a second trinket to kind of give them more options. In the back of the ally cards look like the... Oh, I don't know if I showed the back of the equipment cards. Looks like equipment. Alright, and these right here, I don't think I'll show the... Well, I'll show the fronts, because that's not really that big of a spoiler. But during the campaign, these cards right here, the enemy upgrade cards, these are general upgrade cards that affect whatever threat deck or villain deck you're playing with. So that way the enemies will get tougher throughout the campaign to kind of keep being threatening to you as a player who is gaining more power. And then we have our exciting turn cards. These will give you a turn summary, list of actions available. And on the back side, you have the villain turn, threat turn, villain turn, quest turn. And then Brady's favorite part, got the card dividers. So every deck in the game will have a divider, so you can keep your game organized. They look pretty cool. Here's some more. I like that campaign pool. And that is the base game. So now we are going over to, what should we do next? Stretch goals or Ruins of Arkenspire? I guess Ruins of Arkenspire, maybe. Now Ruins of Arkenspire does have some secret stuff that I set aside because you have to play the story to unlock those things. But I think it's safe because those are taken out here. So let's dig into the Ruins of Arkenspire expansion. If you get this, if you got this expansion from the add-ons, this is what you'll be getting. The first thing is the Profaned Threat Deck. Anybody who's a fan of general undead things, ghosts and ghouls and zombies, this is what their cards look like. And as fitting, their threat tokens represent fear. So the more threat tokens heroes get, the more scared they are. And essentially the more damage they will take from enemies. So heroes can do willpower tests to get rid of them, shake off that fear. The nice thing is any hero can test willpower on their turn, once during their turn, and they can remove fear from themselves or other heroes, kind of calming them down. The next we have one of the coolest villains in the game, I think, is the Thane of the Thander. His sculpt is pretty awesome. He's got carrying this big book on a chain. This guy uses the... no, wait, is this the guy I'm thinking of? Yes, this guy uses the Profane Shambler Lurker card. So the Lurker will be, bothering you throughout the whole game. Even if you defeat it, he'll summon him back up again, so you have a zombie chasing you throughout the whole quest while you're playing against this guy. This is a quest deck that is new to this expansion, and you can play it with any game, but it's used in the Ruins of Arkenspire story. So I'm not gonna go into too much depth about this one, but I'll give you a little tease for the card back. This one's not sealed away, but some people might think it's a spoiler to go into depths into the describing what it is. So I'll leave that one a little more a little vague. All right, now we're going into encounter decks. Now encounter decks are a new way to play the game in Ruins of Arkenspire, and it's very reminiscent of Street Masters, where it's one little tile. It's more like a single fight as opposed to a dungeon crawl. And these can be used in stories to represent side events that happen during the campaign, where you might go to a dungeon, you might travel the next one, but you camp somewhere, and you might have a camp ambush. So this is one of the encounters in the expansion called Camp Ambush.
You already showed the tiles off, right?
Yeah, I showed the tiles off last time. You can grab one real quick though if you want to show it. So, for those of you who weren't here last time, I did show off the encounter tiles, but even the Camp Ambush one. This one coincides with this deck. So if you're playing Camp Ambush, you would pull out this deck and this tile. And instead of putting out the whole game board, you would just play the whole game on this. It takes up less table space. They take a little less time to play, so it might be a good way to introduce your friends to the game if they don't have very much time, to play a whole game. You can say, hey, let's try out a few turns of this Camp Ambush, see how the game plays. Then we also have Grave Disturbances. This is fitting for the Profaned Threat deck that comes in the game in this expansion. This is about the Necromancer summoning zombies at a graveyard. Next up we have the In Trouble. This is monsters causing trouble at an inn, and you're trying to rescue just patrons, get them out of there while fighting monsters and trying to stop from coming in the windows. Sorry, I'm missing questions. Are dividers card stock this time around? They will be card stock. Maybe in a future Kickstarter might do an upgrade to plastic like we did in Street Masters, but they'll be card stock for the base game. There was an idea for a lore compendium with some background on the world. That's still a possibility in the future. We didn't get there in this Kickstarter, which is fine because we kind of want to get the game out there to see how it's received and make sure people plug what they get. If they're happy with the game, then we'll figure out how we're going to expand in the future. And this other encounter is the Arkenhold. This one is more specific to Ruins of Arkenspire. So it is also used in the story guide. Do we have the stretch goals box? We don't have that, do we?
Stretch goal, like the apple, the.
You guys didn't take the stretch goal box to Gamma, did you?
I don't think so. I don't remember what it looked like.
Yeah, I don't think we did. No, we didn't get that because it looks like a map, but yeah, we haven't seen that. We haven't got that mock-up yet. These are the turn cards used when you're playing encounter mode, so you don't use the normal turn cards because the turn structure is a little different. Instead of a quest turn, you'll have an encounter turn. That's the biggest change. I think also in the threat turn, if you did not activate a threat on your turn because you had none, you would draw another one, so threats keep coming out. Since you're not exploring a dungeon and opening rooms, threats will continue to just come to the same tile for you. Got a couple new features in the expansion. Got the coffin and a statue called Sarah's Chosen. We've seen the back of those cards.
The other thing is the spoiled thing set aside.
I said that. These are the lurker versions of the cards in the threat deck.
Oh, I see.
And again, we have more story cards that are unique to the Ruins of Arkenspire story. You can see the backs for them, but I will not show you the fronts until you play that story. And also, Ruins of Arkenspire gives you some new equipment cards. A little bit of everything in this expansion. It's a pretty nice expansion. Oh, I can't show the dividers. I can't show you the dividers because they're secret. So that is the Ruins of Arkenspire expansion. Where did you leave off when you were proofing?
I don't remember. I was on the last quest, I think.
All right, next up we have the other biggest bundle of cards. The stretch goals. Look at all the stretch goals you guys unlocked. It's insane. I showed this last time, but this is the rule sheet you'll find in the stretch goal box. It tells you what you have in the stretch goals, which is 135 miniatures and 417 cards. So let's dig right into these real quick. Sorry, Dr. Bandage. I was tempted. I want to show you guys, but I'd rather you play it and see that yourself. Unveil that secret yourself. Alright. Do the lurker cards of Arkenspire go in the base game threat deck? They go in the lurker deck. The lurker deck is an ever-expanding deck of cards, so you always add cards to the lurker deck. It makes it so any new monsters you buy for this game can appear in any quest you play. So, anytime you get new lurker cards, unless a quest specifies how to build that lurker deck, you just throw them all in there. All right. A hint. Should I get a hint?
For what?
About the secret hero.
It's locked up.
Yeah, that's a hint. It's locked. That is a hint, actually. Right? Anyway, first thing in the stretch goal box is going to be the free thing. The free expansion that everybody got when they backed the Kickstarter was the Call of Lunarin expansion that was Isaac Childress helped us design. He did a new hero and a threat deck, and they're going to be in the stretch goal box. Like, since all backers get it, anybody who gets the stretch goals will also get that. So we put it in the stretch goal box just to save on packaging, make it easier for everybody. This is Layson Pine's hero deck. Layson is interesting because he is a werewolf, so he has two forms. The front of his card is his elf form, and when he can flip over to his werewolf side, you'll notice also his equipment cards flip. So his ranger bow becomes wolf claws, and he still has his necklace. But yeah, he's pretty cool. He's an elf ranger that can turn into a werewolf. So you got the best of both worlds. He can shoot things elegantly, or he can just tear them up with his wolf claws. He has two different kinds of cards in his deck. He has elf cards and he has werewolf cards. When he's in the elf form, he can play elf and resolve elf cards. When he's in werewolf, he can play and resolve werewolf cards. So you kind of have to decide what's best for your situation, what kind of cards you have in your hand, what form you want to be in. That's Layson Pines. Another hero that was unlocked in the Kickstarter. People liked the Mercenary from the Outlaw deck, so we unlocked a hero deck for Blake Gallows. So that's the Mercenary from the Outlaw deck. You can hire her to work with you. That's what her cards look like. She has a bride, is that what she called it? Paid mechanic. She's a bounty hunter, mercenary. I guess mercenary is a better return than bounty hunter because we have a bounty hunter already. Some of her cards have a lot of text because they have various effects on when the card is used. So she's got an interesting play style. One of the heroes we unlocked was Gronin Bosk. That's the back of his cards. This is your typical dwarven fighter. He does better by damaging himself. He gets a little crazy, gets bloodthirsty. So he has abilities that can be enhanced by suffering damage, but he also has ways to negate damage and also heal himself a bit. So he's a risk-reward type fighter. And he hates the Bray. Mortal enemies. Alright, this was one that was asked about earlier. This is Gwendolyn Loxley. I like Gwendolyn a lot. She's cool. There's her card back. Anybody who likes druids, this is your character. So she, instead of having two pieces of equipment, for starting equipment, she has a staff and an ally card. She's got Loxley. And as you could imagine, lots of her cards play off of Loxley, like where Loxley's positioned, helping her attack, getting tag team attacks going, things like that. But she also has some nature magic. I think one of her cards is Nature's Fury. Yeah, there it is. She's cool. She's the first hero you've seen with an ally in your deck. And this is the ever popular Van Geyser. What's we're looking for? Where I'm having a bad thing with words today. What?
Anthropomorphic?
No, just controversial, divisive. Some people like him, some people hate him. But that's Van Geyser. He's the Steern bounty hunter. Yeah, toss a coin to Geyser. He's also unique because he has two starting swords, so he has two pieces of equipment for starting weapons, and they play off each other pretty well, so you can do like a lot of dual wielding attacks. Took an arrow to the shoulder. All right, that it for the heroes we unlocked in the stretch goals? I think so. So now we're going to the threat decks. First up, we have the Lunarian one. This is the one that came with the Call of the Lunarian expansion. Werewolves, Moon Children, Pack Masters. Yeah, I'm not really expecting anybody to read these cards. It's just showing you kind of the layouts and how they look, the art and everything, and also just how many cards there are in the game. There's a lot. Can you gain equipment outside of your starting gear during a game? No, we didn't want to have re-equipping during the game. Changing equipment is essentially an out-of-game thing during campaign play. Also, if you just want to make your own custom games and you use whatever equipment you want, that's cool too. But there's no like re-equipping in the middle of a game. You're going with your equipment. You might find things to use like a Poxoid bladder that you can use like a grenade, but your equipment will stay the same. This was another one that was requested, the Bray. Yes, the art was reused for the Lunarian traps and the Arcspire traps, and that was because we didn't want to have a stretch goal for the Arcspire traps that people who didn't buy that expansion wouldn't need. So we found a way to reuse that trap sculpt for both decks. So everybody's in the Lunarian threat deck, so they can use that trap also on the Profane threat deck if they bought the Ruins of Arcspire expansion. So hopefully people appreciate that. This is the Bray. Their threat token. Oh, I forgot to tell you what Lunarian they use their threat token for. Theirs is basically like scent. If you have too much of a scent, a werewolf will spawn on you. So you don't want to give yourself away when there's a werewolf around. And the Bray theirs is really nasty. They set rooms on fire. So they put threat tokens on feature cards, and rooms will basically get more and more fire in them. This fire will spread, so you don't want to have too much fire building up in these rooms because it gets deadly. And the Outlaws. This is one of the first stretch goals we unlocked was the Outlaws. The first appearance of Blake Gallows as well. She's working for the bad guys. They use threat tokens by messing with the card draw. They're very good at distracting you from your objective, like Outlaws do. They got Highwaymen, Cut Purses, Mercenaries, Steel Maw Traps. Alright, and then we have one of my favorites. They have the Crowl. I always love bird people. They're all about shadows, assassins and such. They're interesting because if you see right here, none of their minions have a defense value. They have 0 armor, but they each spawn with 3 threat tokens. The threat tokens are shadows, so that's their defense basically. So you have to chip away at their defense to expose them before you can take them out because they have high armor, but you can take it away by using focus. Blake has 5 sisters, right?
What's that?
Blake has 5 sisters, right?
Blake?
Blanche, Bella, Brittany, Bianca, Bethany.
Oh, and the Outlaws?
The mercenary deck.
The Outlaw deck?
Yeah, the Outlaw deck. And then the last of the stretch goal threats, my other favorites, a Boxoid. These guys spread disease like nobody's business. That's what their threat tokens are, is disease, and basically it negates your focus. It's hard to focus when you're diseased. And they have plague nest traps. Those are gross. Those are essentially a way for them to spawn more Poxoid. Alright, now we're on the villains. First up we have Billy the Kindler. He is interesting because he has a fire elemental named Vraka. And that guy just harasses you through the whole game. You can't attack him. He's just harassing you, trying to chase him. He's trying to chase you around and mess with you. Just try to stay away from him. yes, we're all healthy and safe for now. It's a challenge to work in these times, but you know, do what we can. It's nice to have the kids around, but they are distracting. It's hard.
If you talk about it, they'll show up.
What's that?
If you talk about it, they'll just appear.
Yeah, they'll just pop out of nowhere. This is a villain we unlocked in the stretch goals that we wanted to add a villain to the Colin Aaron pack. So this is kind of like that thematic villain, which is Broderick Heston, a politician that is also a werewolf. And then we have Captain Morgan. This is I think this is the first villain we unlocked in the stretch goals. I think Brady's played Alter Quest with Riley, right? I know my daughter's
Yeah,
probably doesn't have the attention
she's
span for it.
playtested everything we've done.
She kind of curses you. Well, actually, this one, what they call it? You call it Numost. Brady designed her deck.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
All right, and then this is the Poxoid villain, Rancidian, and this is the other huge villain. Bullux is huge, and so is Rancidian. That means they take up 4 spaces, and they have some special rules about how they move. But he's pretty nasty. Since Isaac was a guest designer for us, any chance of us being a guest designer for Frosthaven scenarios? Well, he did ask us to do a Gloomhaven scenario when he did his Gloomhaven campaign. So I don't know. Keep an eye on his.
We are a legacy brand in that, so we did two or three.
Yeah, we live fairly close to Isaac, so it's very possible. Here's Vivian. I think this was the last villain was this the last stretch goal we unlocked? I think it was the one we were closest to unlocking, and you guys managed to do it. And she does curses. She's the one who curses people. And then we go to quest decks. Alright, this quest was In Too Deep. This one was pretty interesting because there's that card back. This one is kind of like a survival one, where you're basically just trying to get out. Not like the escape one. This one is more about, you're losing supplies, you're kind of lost in this strange dungeon, and you can't find your way out. So you have all these cards you gain these cards in your hand, you have to get rid of them. Like depleting rations, lost and found, like you might lose your potions you find, things like that. This one is very survival based. This next one is really cool, Pillaging the Vault. However, the factory, we sent the factory the wrong back file, so we don't have the card back to show you, which is a shame. That's just a mistake. We will send them the proper file so they can send us a new proof. But this deck is cool because it's about stealing, loot as much as you can. And basically, these cards right here are like combination cards. And so you'll see these altar symbols on these cards. And that's kind of like the results you need in the altar pool to solve that card. So you draw a card and you want to make sure you have a way to mitigate that pool, and you're trying to get that right combination of symbols to unlock that loot that you're trying to get. So that was pretty cool. Quarantine is another 693. This is all about trying to stop a disease from spreading. This was clearly Poxoid themed. So the whole way we did the stretch goals is we intended these to be thought of as like adventure packs. And so if we were doing this retail, we would have had the Poxoid threat, Rancidian, the Quarantine quest deck, and the trash heap or whatever, like the feature, and the disease altar, like all in one pack called like this adventure pack, where it's like all these modular elements that are themed towards a specific enemy. And that, for example, the Poxoid would have all that stuff in a pack. So you've unlocked the Poxoid pack, the Bray pack, the Crow pack, and the Outlaw pack.
So you jerks ruined our retail plans.
Yeah. This is the altar cards that were unlocked. And the ally cards we unlocked, I think this was a social goal, but we unlocked Layson and Blake as ally cards. And obviously the Layson, the back of the Layson card is his werewolf form. And then the feature cards that were unlocked, these are cool. These are some of my favorite features. The cage is really cool because it's actually interactive. You can lock up a minion in a cage. It's pretty cool. And the crates just look awesome. I actually painted some of these. I'm not sure if I showed you last time, but I painted up the crates and the what do you call it? The cauldron. Actually, sorry. I think, yeah, my wife painted up the cauldron.
This guy's asking what's the over-under of being able to play the quarantine while in quarantine. I'd say the way things are going, I'd say it's pretty high.
Yeah,
Odds are pretty high in your favor.
So this is the, I'll just show these individually. This is the cauldron, what it looks like when you paint it up. I was pretty happy with it.
When are the ally cards used at your discretion?
Yeah, ally cards are optional unless a quest calls for them specifically, like the, or a story. Sorry, story. Story might call for an ally. But these features paint up nice. Pretty happy with them. Alright, and we have the lurker cards for all the minions. There are 3 missing from this one. There are supposed to be the Call of Lunarin, the Werewolf, the Packmaster, and the Moonchild are supposed to be on here as well. We are sending those files to the factory to update there.
The bigger ones will have the square bases, yeah, for the features, because they accommodate 4 squares on the.
Yeah, there are 3 sizes. There are 3 sizes of features. There's 1 square, there's 2 square, there's 4 square features, and all altars, for example, are 4 squares. And then we have dividers.
Dr. Bandage asks, still no chance of being able to buy another pack of those features. Those will be on the.
So we haven't announced this yet, but if you on the Fantasy Miniatures Kickstarter, we're actually going to be putting up add-ons for a door pack, which is like a pack of 10 doors or something from the Altar Quest doors, and then a selection of 10 features for a scenery pack. Not all the scenery features from Altar Quest, but a lot of the good ones that kind of make sense for any like fantasy or role-playing D&D game.
Why the universal ones?
Yeah. So like the altars aren't in there and stuff like that, but we are considering finding ways to open that up to selling them in different ways. That's one of them. Is we're going to feature those in the miniatures Kickstarter. Here are the dividers for the stretch goal stuff.
There's really not a lot of overlap between the miniatures campaign and.
Yeah, we're trying to keep them separate
because there's a very specific division between this IP, the Altar Quest IP, because it's distinct in its art style, the races involved, and everything. And the Fantasy Miniatures was meant to be more of just very, very traditional. So a lot of people who play D&D or Pathfinder or tabletop RPGs, they usually want very typical high fantasy, which obviously Altar Quest would be a little different than what they're looking for. So we wanted to make something more geared that way. So they're not meant to overlap much. Plus the scale is.
That's the big thing, is the scale is different. A lot of people were pushing us to do bigger miniatures in our board games. So Altar Quest miniatures are a little bigger scale than normal 28mm. The Fantasy Miniatures games are going to be standard 28mm that can be used with most games. Altar Quest miniatures are a little bigger. Way better, like obviously it accommodates way better detail. But the nice thing is the features still make sense for both. The doors still make sense. They might be a little bigger for the Fantasy Miniatures, but that's okay. Doors can be bigger. That's fine.
So we'll get adequate storage for the cards. There wasn't Brook City. Yeah, Brook City's insert was not ideal for Cardwells like we do with Street Masters, where you have Cardwells with the dividers, because the factory went all out to make the customized vac tray be more accommodating for all of the miniatures, which they did a great job with, but we just didn't communicate enough how much we wanted to have the card storage be a big factor in that as well. So we will learn from those things, but yeah, this game will have much more apparent card storage, card wells.
Yeah, I think the newer print run of Street Masters is a good example of the direction we want to go, but we also want to make it better where the dividers can stand up without being like pushed back at an angle. We want them to stand up properly, so we're working with the factory to make sure that insert is as accommodating as possible for anybody, all different needs. So the last batch of cards we have, I think this is the last batch. We've done everything else. This right here is the first 4. I'll just show you the dividers first because it shows all the heroes. But these are the add-on pack we added for people wanting more heroes in the game. These are like legendary heroes from the setting. Gavin Ulrich, Avith Nomura, Karen Herrick, and Willow Banks. A nice mix too. You got a human, an elf, a dwarf, and furry folk. Team Tuck Box. Alright, these are stapled together. These might be a little harder to show, but I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. So this is Aveth's deck. He is a battle mage, so he has cards that are martial and arcane, and he gets bonuses for certain cards based on which card is at the top of his discard pile. So if he does an arcane ability, the next time he does a martial ability, it'll be boosted. So he gets bonuses for mixing up his tactics, and those are his backs. Yes, this can be played as a campaign. There is regular gameplay. There is campaign mode, which is kind of like make your own campaign over the course of 6 sessions. And there's story mode, which is a very specific narrative-based story progression where you play through a story guide. Tells you kind of what to play. Here's Gavin. He is a traditional paladin type character, a good leader. He has a mechanic of inspiration tokens that he can pass out, and people can use the inspiration tokens to get bonuses in different ways. And there's his card back. And then we have Karen Herrick. Karen has snare tokens. She is a dwarven ranger type character, and she can lay out these snare tokens, and all of her cards have a trip effect. If they call it right, trip. And so when an enemy runs over a trap, she can reveal a card from her hand and resolve that trip effect.
Did I miss it? Did you already answer this question about playing as a campaign?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's our question.
Assuming would be on, will be at Origins or Gen Con. Gen Con, yeah, we would be if it's on. I'm not sure yet, but Origins, I don't think we would be.
Yeah, Origins, sometimes I go personally just to attend. I'm not sure if I
These
would
are
be
backs.
this year. The how things are going.
Karen's card backs. And then the last hero in this pack is Willow Banks. Everybody loves a Buryfolk Bard, right? She has melody tokens, where she can put melody tokens on heroes and enemies, and her cards do different things with those melody tokens. So 3 out of the 4 heroes in this pack use a unique type of token, which are included in the pack. Kind of give them a little more of a unique play style.
Yeah, we have been asked to attend the UK Games Expo. I was actually talking to Chris from Odiphius. He was really trying to get us to go. I'd love to attend. It might be something next year, maybe. I'm not sure because I know this year they rescheduled it. But I just don't think with things going as they are now, we'll probably have less of a chance to hit the cons we want to hit. But it'll give us time to get more product out and everything. So next year will be a much better chances of that happening.
So what can we expect in the future for Alter Quest? So Alter Quest, we're excited to see it get out there and see what people think. It's really hard to say what we want to do with it yet because we want to see what people like about it, what people don't like, how we can improve it. Because we can only tell so much from our playtesting of it. Because every time we play it, we have fun with it, and that's kind of where we know we have something good. We want to put it out there, but we want to make sure that other people like what we like about it, or we get other opinions outside of us and our internal playtesters. Because we do have a limited playtesting pool. Lots of people want to playtest, but it is a lot of work, and so the playtesters we get consistently give feedback. Is more of a limited pool. So we want to make sure that it's out there and what people like about it, and we definitely want to do more with the game, but we will definitely wait to see how it's received before we decide what we're doing next. But we have plenty of ideas, and we could easily do a follow-up Kickstarter in the same way we saw how we did Street Masters Aftershock. That game, people like it. We knew what they liked. We gave them more of it, and it went over well. So we hope to do the same thing with more of our games. So. I would definitely, in my initial thought would be we would be doing more like the Runes of Arkenspire style expansions. Maybe one of those a year would be nice, as long as people like it. But yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking. Also, I wanted to give a little more explanation for our upcoming Kickstarter. Some people might not be sure about what it is exactly, but we're hoping to kind of have this new division at Blacklist Games for Blacklist miniatures. They would focus more on the miniatures for indie game, but also working with Blacklist Games in the future for games that wouldn't require miniatures but could add them for an upgrade. For example, we might have, if you could imagine a game like Alter Quest that came with standees or something more along the lines of like Gloomhaven, where there's not tons of miniatures in the game, so you can put more game content in there. And then offer a Blacklist Miniatures product that's like, oh, here are these miniatures for this game, so you can swap out your standees with miniatures, but you're not required to buy that huge box of miniatures. That's kind of what I would like to do eventually, as long as, Blacklist Miniatures is received well, people, the Kickstarter does well. That's kind of where I hope it goes in the future. But that's kind of where that plan came from, was kind of like, I want to offer miniatures to people for any game they want, but also for our own games, obviously.
So, any word on? I know there's an RPG question ahead of this, but I'll just address this. Any word on Contra release yet? Since Contra's our first straight to retail and it's our first licensed game, it hits a lot of hang-ups where it's hard to set a firm date because things can change drastically. It's to the point now where it's pretty, like, the game is pretty much fully approved. We're just trying to get to the point where, like, packaging stuff, just finalizing a lot of the materials. I think that since it's the capital involved to bring it to retail, is going to be dependent also on, like, for example, how the Kickstarter funds this new miniatures one we're doing. That'll give us an idea about how to plan things for the year. So it's soon, but we just don't have like a firm date about when we can say it. But we want to.
Approvals are the big thing.
Yeah.
Right? Approvals hold everything up. So
assuming, like, let's say hypothetically, a Gen Con's still happening like normal, like depending on what's happening, with the world. But ideally, it would be a Gen Con release. That was like the goal, to be able to sell that at Gen Con. So that's what we're still trying to aim for. And it's doable as long as we have the capital set up and everything, and we're good to go.
Yeah, an RPG would be cool. We've definitely talked about RPGs in the past. It's not something that we would probably want to design because we like RPGs, but RPG design is more writing a book and more of a loose gameplay type thing, where it's not something we are super excited about designing, but we definitely want to hire somebody to do that. I know that
if we weren't already locked into X number of projects like board game designs, it'd be a little easier to plan something like an RPG.
Yeah,
like RPG
it requires a lot of content, a lot of time devoted to that one product. So,
would the goal be another Kickstarter or direct to retail for Alter Quest? That's again dependent on the reception.
I would think another Kickstarter would be likely if the game is received well, because we would like to offer the same package that we did for this Kickstarter to new players who missed this Kickstarter, like we did for Street Masters. We would like to do a Kickstarter where you can get just the new stuff or everything all at once. That's kind of what we would probably want to do.
Have we provided? Oh, I see.
So this is this Brad says this is first big box board game back to Kickstarter. What are the general board game timeframes for mass production? That depends a lot on the factory schedule, but typically you can assume that mass production could take a few weeks, like maybe a month, and then a typical boat ride from China to the U.S. through customs and everything is at least a month. So like that, a month is a good time frame to say on the boat. That all depends on the fulfillment company involved, like where they're shipping those to. There's so many different elements that can change that, so we can't really give a solid, this is how long it'll take. But in my experience in the board game industry for so many years, like that's kind of what I've seen is like a couple months from ready to print to delivering the doorsteps. 1 to 3 months is a good estimate, but take that with a grain of salt. We'll definitely update you as the situation progresses, and we can give a more solid time frame. Thumbs up for the minis add-on. Yeah, we definitely give people options for our games. It's hard to tell people like, oh yeah, buy our game, but it's a $150 buy-in for all this stuff. We want people to be able to try our games for lower costs. So.
Brook City card game, is that a thing? Did we talk? Yeah, we talked about that. I don't think
so. Yeah, it's basically. I'm gonna go ahead and read the ad for you because you guys are going to be getting this box, and it was at Gamma, so people at Gamma saw it. This is called Buddy Cop. This is the card game in the Brook City setting. It's designed by Mitch Schroeder, who's one of our game developers who's been involved with our games since the beginning. I think when Street Masters came out, he was playtesting that.
He was one of the first playtesters of Street Masters, yeah.
So this, the ad says, Buddy Cop is a cooperative card game for 1 to 2 players, expandable to 4 players with future releases. In the game, players take on the role of heroic cops tasked to bring down criminal operations. Each cop, criminal, and operation has their own unique deck that defines their gameplay and can be combined in any way the players choose.
That's why you put it on airplane.
Does it stop it, or does it just...
I don't know.
Okay. Are we still live? Okay.
Mine's not.
Sorry, there was a phone call.
You gotta put it on airplane mode, dude.
Sorry, I'm on a live stream. I'll have to call you back.
Alright, so we were at...
So it's can be combined in different ways players choose, featuring custom dice, clever card play, and resource management. Buddy Cop is a quick and fun way to live out your favorite cop action movie. So it sounds a little bit like Brook City if you've played Brook City, but it is designed to be a much shorter gameplay experience, like half an hour. It's
much more
just cards, very simple. Like it's kind of like a shootout. You're playing like
an encounter.
at a location. So
that's so we have Ultra Quest fiction. There's quite a bit of fiction in this in the story guides. There's a lot of lore there. I actually have a few short stories in the Ultra Quest setting when we were doing world building for this. I don't know if we'll ever release it. If there's a high enough demand, I'd be happy to write more because this setting was pretty much conceived through a series of short stories I was working on. I would be more than happy to buy a Gen Con, so I'd be more than happy for you too as well. Hopefully that can happen. Also, Street Masters Digital, we're still working through the distribution channels for like the different ways to purchase the game. It's pretty much done, but yeah, we'll have an official announcement once we have everything locked in place.
It is our first, as a company, it's our first attempt to do any kind of app-based thing. So it's a learning process for us. Working with an outside developer, he's awesome. He works really fast, but he's been doing a lot of learning the best way to do this, basically.
Is Black Box being used again to fill out? Absolutely not.
Who said that?
Yeah.
No, Black Box is not being used by us.
Nope.
No.
Quartermaster is lined up.
I can't wait for people. I can't wait for this Ultra Quest fulfillment to start, so we can show people what a good fulfillment process looks like. Because anybody who's familiar with Quartermaster knows how they operate. So.
Is it possible to prepare a Frosthaven Miniatures Kickstarter with Blacklist Miniatures?
We were thinking about something like that, but we're not doing that. But we're definitely open to something like that.
Yeah,
so.
I made a courtesy call to Isaac when we were planning our Kickstarter, and I said, "Hey, let's
not talk about his.
Yeah,
plans,
just
so.
like just give him a heads up." But yeah,
we'll let Isaac talk about his Frosthaven plans. So. Still alive, okay, good. Excited to see Brook City back. Yes, we want to do more games in the Brook City setting as well. So Brook City is an IP we're definitely going to be doing more things with.
I never realized that. Yeah, Brook City, Buddy Cop, BC. Sorry about that, Dr. Vantage. We messed up the acronyms.
Is the Ultra Quest story written in a similar way to the story guides in Hour of Need, or is there more narrative? Ultra Quest is way more narrative.
Yes, the Hour Need's much more comic book episodic, just kind of introductions.
Did you take that story guide? Where'd it go? Did you take it home with you?
No, it's underneath the box and the dice there.
It's much more robust. This is a very much like a choose your own adventure style.
Yeah, I'm not gonna show you let you read this, but this is the Ruins of Arkenspire guide, for example, and this will give you an idea of how much text there is. There's just one page, it's
lots of text.
All those call out boxes are like making choices. It's a choose your own adventure style thing. Yeah, there's a lot, and then the back story appendix has even more stuff that game affecting things.
Yeah.
So it's very narrative heavy.
Yeah, we try to match up the mediums, like the amount of story we get for the medium, because while comic books are narrative heavy, it's a comic book game, so we wanted to be more just punchy. So here's a little bite-sized narrative to push you along on the story, and it's more just to provide those who are interested in digging a little deeper. But this is much more of a story-driven experience with the story guides. So.
We did answer about the translation. So we had translations before saying that we were working on those because we had volunteers offering to do translations. But as you know from Street Masters and our games, these card games, there's just so much text in it, and so a lot of times these volunteers don't keep doing it. Like they don't respond, or something else comes up. We can't really enforce doing things. Don't show that. It's a secret.
I know we can
Just
show.
Just don't bother. Don't bother.
He said you can show.
Don't bother.
I'm covering it up. You can't see it. See?
Well, I mean, I showed the card backs. It's fine. But
I would have showed it. So.
But you made me lose my train of thought. Oh yeah, translations. We are talking to partners about official translations, which we can actually plan for and officially release. So that's something to look forward to. But we can't commit to these translations that volunteers offer to do because there's no management. We can't enforce it. It's volunteer work.
Any chance for getting a recording of the narrative made? If we did that, this is what you would hear. Like a broken spear reaching high to the sky. Like you'd have to we have to hire somebody to do all that. So it's like
that's I think what that's what they're asking. So.
I know. I'm saying like that's what we would be able to do. We can't afford to hire a voice actor to narrate everything. So
yeah, Brady can just play drums for narrations. That's fine. But yeah, we're open to doing app stuff in the future to enhance our games, but I don't think we'll ever want to do like app-centric games, is where you need an app to play. But things that are app enhanced, that's definitely on the table. So. Yeah, I think we've tried to I try to get in touch with the Critical Role people for the miniatures campaign, because I figured that they might be interested in that. They don't use miniatures, but maybe they think it's cool. They like D&D, and they're perfect for D&D. So, I want a Birdman-esque drum soundtrack. Cool.
Oh man, then like the freeform jazz.
So yeah, that's it for the card proofs. We're gonna go through and read through these and make sure they're excuse me, perfect. So we can give the factory the thumbs up saying fix these files and send us an update, so we can hit the print button and get things rolling. I think there's a few more things coming my way. I think they're gonna send me an updated rule book, and they're gonna send me color miniature samples to review to make sure the colors are right. And then after that, it's really just finalizing the proofing and make sure everything looks right, and then we can go ahead and start mass production on this bad boy and get it out to you guys. So I can't wait to deliver this to everybody and see what you all think, and if you like it, we will definitely give you more. So if there's any other questions, feel free to hit us up on Blacklist Facebook page, any of the Kickstarter pages you might be part of, like leave comments, we'll check them out. But until next time, we'll do another live stream when we have more stuff to show. Maybe maybe we'll get a full sample soon. We can show that off. That'd be cool. Yeah, that's all we got today. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed what you saw, and we'll see you next time.